What's up, curious youngsters? After years and years of watching hundreds of documentaries, television shows, and millions of images and videos on the internet, there are still things that always surprise us. Maybe it's because there are more than 7 billion of us, and with immediate access to the internet, we can literally come across anything at any time. Even if you think you've seen everything, there are always new things, and that's why Mr. Curiosity is here. For this and much more, these are 20 things you'll see for the first time in your life. The professionalism with which restorers do their work is clear, whether it's everyday objects, accessories, or even works of art, where the level of detail is minimal. And if you've ever wondered how somewhat old accessories are restored, this Korean man shows us the step-by-step process of restoring a Louis Vuitton bag using different techniques. And we can't deny the great level of detail with which he works on every part of the process. We can see how careful you have to be in this kind of restoration. Ultimately, the difference between the bag at the start and the end is quite noticeable. On the channel, we've already seen some food time lapses, and without a doubt, it's interesting to see how, over time, different foods go through a process of decomposition. I'm sure this is the first time you'll see how long it takes thousands of worms to eat different foods like a strawberry, a banana, and a hamburger. And to be honest, it's also interesting to watch since it takes the insects about 40 minutes to finish. And even though it's not very pleasant, it's actually quite satisfying. That's a bit gross. Every day we can see thousands and thousands of talented artists who take their work to another level. And in this case, this man is no exception. Mini Bricks is a channel where he creates detailed dioramas using various materials, covering everything from the ground to the lake. And the people he sculpts, we can't deny the incredible talent he has, and we simply can't stop watching the whole creation process. As a result, we can see a somewhat disturbing but amazing scene of two people on top of a monstrous creature. The guitar is a pretty popular instrument around the world, and we all know its classic design. However, this man wanted to try something different by making his own guitar from scratch. But in a curious way, he set out to collect a lot of picks for this instrument. And so, of course, with the help of epoxy resin, he was able to create a completely eye-catching electric guitar. And even though the process itself is quite long, the final result is worth seeing, since not only did it turn out really well, but it also works perfectly. Gravity Falls was an animated series from a few years ago that gained a lot of popularity due to its great storyline. So much so that this artist set out to recreate one of its main characters, Stanley Pines, but in a slightly different way. Using ample clay, details, and various colors, Cry2Kid created an incredibly realistic version of the animated series character. He also brought the series creator, Alex Heroes, who was just as amazed as everyone else. There's nothing like cooling off in a pool on a hot day, and if you're a fan of construction videos, then this one in particular is sure to be quite interesting for you. Through a long process and by gathering different materials like water and bamboo canes, these men decided to create some pools from scratch with an interesting detail. And besides the hole with slides, they built a huge ship in the center, which you can climb, a curious detail that gives it an even more spectacular appearance. Well done, gentlemen of the jungle. Unfortunately, a lot of waste ends up polluting the environment, especially nowadays, especially those that take too long to decompose. And that's the case with this type of rubber, which, as this man explains, is quite difficult to decompose naturally. That's why he decided to show how to make a pair of sandals from scratch with just a few tools. From cutting the material to shaping it to the foot, making everything look pretty easy. A pretty interesting process that gives us sandals decorated with a few details, ready to use. From everyday objects to the strangest foods, everything can be encapsulated in epoxy resin, a transparent and viscous substance that solidifies when exposed to air. That way, you can create beautiful ornaments, although sometimes the result can be a bit strange. But what would happen if we covered an ice cube in resin? Well, this channel decided to put some of this substance in a glass with the liquid inside. And surprisingly, the ice, although it melts a little, doesn't completely melt, resulting in a bit of water around the cube. If you like Legos and enjoy watching videos with techniques, you're gonna love this one in particular. With about 3,000 photographs and over a month of recording and editing, this channel created a short video where they simulate cooking a salmon out of cubes, Lego, while adding a unique ASMR element. The interesting thing is that it shows a pretty complete process from scaling the fish to serving it in its bowl. It's something that we really can't stop watching. It's undeniable the talent that some people can have, especially when it comes to food. And walking through the streets of Japan, you can find these people who apparently really enjoy making animals out of candy. The level of detail that the man uses in each one is truly amazing, since he not only shapes practically any animal, but also does it with a lot of patience. His partner paints each one of them, a skill that in the end shows us a perfectly detailed dog, cat, frog, and koi fish. What a talented Japanese gentleman. If you hate mosquitoes as much as I do, this video is going to be very satisfying for you. This insect jumps right into a trap that clearly kills it instantly. It's funny to watch, but this happens because many insects are strongly attracted to light, and LED lamps produce intense ultraviolet light rays, which make them look more attractive than typical fluorescent lamps to certain insects. And maybe it's the fact that it takes a few seconds before finally dropping, which makes it a pretty funny scene to watch. If we're talking about food, ASMR videos tend to be quite addictive and relaxing, just like this one. In a Korean restaurant in Busan, this man cooks American-style burgers with lots of ingredients, including bacon, of course. He demonstrates step by step how he cuts and cooks each part of the meal and the bread, making it a tempting sight you can't stop watching. And after a few minutes, the result is a pretty big and surely delicious burger. This is a green tree frog, which is a pretty popular species in Australia. Surprisingly, and as we can see in this video, it's a good pet. Since it has basic needs and a pretty docile personality this time, its owner will try to feed it. In case you're wondering, this frog species eats insects such as crickets, moths, spiders, cockroaches, and more. Oh, and in case you were also wondering, this frog can live from 15 to 20 years, which makes it a good pet, also because of how adorable it is. Many people discard items they no longer need, even when they're still in good condition. Have you ever seen things tossed on the street and wondered if they could be useful? If so, what comes next may surprise you, because we're going to see what people in the United States usually throw out on the street when it's no longer useful to them. The curious thing is that not only do they throw away good objects, but these also tend to be and look pretty new. Why do you throw that away, United States? Why? If you've ever traveled by subway or metro, you probably would never expect the stranger sitting across from you to draw a picture of you, and even in such a short time. He's Devin Rodriguez, an artist who usually draws the person sitting across from him on the subway. With great skill, even though he makes it look pretty easy, you can tell he knows what he's doing. But the best part of all is seeing the surprised and happy reactions of the people who never expected such a gesture. And if you think about it, no one can blame us because this guy's talent is truly incredible. As we know, graffiti is an art form usually done in urban spaces, and it has a very distinctive style. Watching graffiti artists on video is definitely addictive. But what if you used 5 spray cans with an adapter instead of just one? This guy decided to draw by tracing more than 4 lines at once. And even though we can't deny that this looks a bit strange, the truth is, you just can't stop watching this drawing. The result is something different from what you're used to. But without a doubt, it turned out pretty well, even if it's hard to believe. Bees aren't the only insects capable of producing honey. For example, honey ants, as they are commonly known, store honey in their abdomens, mainly to feed their young until they become adults. Nectar is collected in the spring, and when the plants bloom, that's when they extract the liquid. Although it might be a somewhat strange image coming from an ant and not a bee, as we're used to, most of us have or have had pets at some point. And what if you have a dog or a cat? You probably found it funny to watch them play with any object you have at home, but I'm sure it never occurred to you to do something like this. These owners have wanted to see their cat's reaction when they sat on a rug with an optical illusion. And it's funny to see that although at first they seemed confused, after a while they seemed to get used to it. And contrary to what was expected, not only do they not look very amazed, but they simply lie down on it. Take it easy, Whiskers. Unfortunately, cases where small animals get stuck in different places are very common, like this baby kitten who got trapped in the drain of a washing machine somewhere in Japan. It's a rather distressing image, especially because of the animal's age and the fact that its head couldn't get out of there. But with a bit of strength and some tools, they finally managed to get it out of that place. And that's not all, because after rescuing it, they also decide to take care of it and give it a bath. Without a doubt, the cat can be quite a threatening animal to other animals, like in the case of the fox. However, it's said that they don't necessarily have to get along badly. And the cat shouldn't be prey for the fox either, since it can defend itself quite well in this case. So we see how both animals try to feed on the same food and how the cat isn't very happy about having to share. He looks quite indignant toward the fox, who just wants to come closer and eat a little. And the good thing is that finally, with a lot of patience, he manages to do it. Thank you, Ver.